Gustav Klimt was an Austrian painter in the early 20th century, and his work is interesting because it sort of straddles this world between realism and abstraction. He has some very realistic elements, but also his use of pattern in particular goes to a whole nother level where people seem like they're draped in these patterns that in some ways sort of flatten it. We see like realistic faces popping out of clothing, or in this case with the baby, blankets that are just covered in so many elaborate patterns. It sort of obscures it and flattens the image in a lot of ways. So what we're going to do is explore Klimt's style. We're going to take our inspiration in this case from the baby picture, where he had a baby wrapped up and cozy, covered in just a mound of blankets. A terrible thing to do to a real baby. Very dangerous. Don't ever do that to a baby. But it does look nice and soft and cozy and warm. So I'm going to make sort of a self-portrait in the Klimt style. I'm going to start off drawing my face, and then I am drawing blankets and just like layers of shapes of blankets. And in each of those shapes, what I'm going to do is make different patterns. So I'm going to have some spiraling lines and patterns. I might have some straight lines. I might have some concentric circles or rectangles, just smaller and smaller versions of shapes inside of shapes to create some contrast. I want to have some that are more geometric and hard-edged, and some that are more free-flowing and organic. So right next to those rectangles, I have wavy lines and ovals. Next to the wavy lines and ovals, I've got zigzag patterns. So I'm trying to create contrast or a difference in the different patterns that I'm using in different areas of my composition. That is one of the strategies that is going to make each of those individual parts stand out, is by having contrasting in different patterns. And it's a good sort of creativity challenge to think about, like, how many different ways can you make patterns? How many different designs can you come up with using lines and dots and shapes and things like that? Now, after I've drawn all those patterns using my Sharpie, and of course you should always plan your work in pencil first. I'm using a Sharpie just because it shows up better on camera. But after I've done it in permanent marker with the Sharpie, I'm going to use washable Crayola type markers to just outline those broader shapes. I wanted to show a different technique here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an ink wash, spreading the ink from those washable markers. It's important to recognize the colors are coming from washable markers. So when I trace over it with water on my paintbrush, the ink and the water mix to create almost like a watercolor paint that can spread. The black lines are from a Sharpie. They're from a permanent marker. It is not water soluble, meaning it does not dissolve in water. It is not washable. And that's why the black ink stays in place. That doesn't get smeared. The washable marker does. So it's important to always know what materials you're using on different parts. Now, after I have painted all those colorful shapes for the blankets and the pillow and look like I'm wrapped up nice and cozy, I want to think about the negative space, the space around it. So I'm going to use sort of a brown and a little bit of yellow mixed together to make an earthy tone that's going to contrast from the cool colors I used on the rest of this color scheme. And then I'm going to spread a little bit into the skin tone area, because it just, that shock of white just did not look quite right. And diluting with more water can make it more pale. Less water can make it more of a dark tan or brown for whatever skin tone you want to create. Now, of course, as always, you don't have to copy my example exactly. I've seen this picture, don't need to see 100 more. But what I do want to see you do is take a little bit from Klimt's style and make it your own. I want to see you making a picture that is a combination of realistic and abstract approaches. And I do want you to have room to be creative and have fun with it. So if you don't want to make it a person's face, maybe you're going to make it a puppy wrapped in blankets. Maybe you're going to make it holiday themed. You're going to have a witch's face wrapped in patterns. Whatever you would like to do, but like I said, I want to see a combination of realistic and abstract approaches. I want to see a realistic face covered in abstracted patterns covering the body or the clothing.